Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Silmarillion Film Project. This is Season 8, Session 10. And today we are finally going to stop procrastinating an important discussion that we've been needing to have for a while. And that is, what is Galadriel doing at this point? And of course, in doing this, we are going to be turning ourselves to answering that larger question, which Tolkien himself never finished answering, which is, what is Galadriel doing for the balance of the First Age? We don't, of course, have to fully script Galadriel's entire future career today, but we certainly should have some sense of where she's headed and what we want to do with her so that we know what we're setting up here in Season 8. So that is our first project here today. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see everyone back. I'm joined, as always, by Ilana Mushin and by Marie Prosser from our writer's room. We may get one or two more dropping in with us later on today, but we're gonna get going with our discussion today. But we'll do that right after some announcements. Quick, we have a ton of events coming up. Both soon and late here at Signum. Our most proximate event is Moot, which is happening next weekend. So we're only about 9 days away from Moot down in Houston. Always look forward to seeing our friends in Texas. Moot is one of our two oldest, longest running moots. We've been running that since I think 2017 is the number where we began. Anyway, it's been going on. I think this may be our 10th Moot, our 10th year anniversary anyway of Moot. There's a lot going on down there. So happy to see folks in Texas again. That's the nearest moot. The biggest moot news of the week is Kiwi Moot registration is open. So the good news is that Kiwi Moot registration is open. And if you want to join us in Wellington, New Zealand for Kiwi Moot the weekend of February 6th through the 8th, 2027, you are welcome to join us. We have a lot of people who have signed up for Kiwi Moot. In fact, Kiwi Moot is already, as of today, less than a week after we opened registration, the largest regional moot we've ever had in our entire history. So that's the good news. And you can still join us at Kiwi Moot on the 6th to the 8th. The difficult thing is that so we also, of course, as I've mentioned before, are doing a whole 2-week trip touring New Zealand together for several days, for like 5 days before the moot begins, and then for like another 7 days after the moot ends. The first on the North Island and the second on the South Island. That sold out in less than 48 hours after we launched. And I'm not saying that the Australians are to blame, but they had a lot to do with it. The Australians were prepared for the launch of registration for this trip. We are looking into possibilities. If you are listening to this and you find yourself really wishing that you could come with us on that trip, what you should do, send an email to events@signumu.org. And we can put you on a waiting list. We're having a discussion with our waiting list people, trying to figure out what's possible and not possible. We're still early enough in the planning stages that we might be able to make some changes and bring some more people on. We're trying to sort that out. So if you want to be in that conversation, send an email to events@signumu.org, and we'll keep you posted on what we're planning there. But that's been a rather exciting thing this week. Anyway, so lots of other stuff going on. It's April, so we're beginning a new month of really fun space modules this month. We will check out soon some upcoming things that are coming in in April. One thing that I also did want to mention is that Saturday, April 18th is going to be our spring space showcase, where we're going to be showcasing a bunch of our upcoming modules. So you can get a little space capsule preview of those modules that morning. And I'm also going to be doing a big update, a Signum update that afternoon as well. So that is on starting at 9 a.m. on the 18th of April. Saturday, the 18th of April is our Space Spring Showcase. All right. Let's, I don't think I need the map too much for this one. Well, yeah, no, we can come back to it if we need it. Nor do we need to go over the pacing of the season, because we've been talking about that. I might come back to this one, which gives the sort of beginning, middle, and end overall shape of the sort of combined shape of the season, and sort of think about how we want to kind of work Galadriel's story into that. But first, let's kind of go to the drawing board here about Galadriel's storyline. Let's start with the biggest question first. Let's think about I think so. To me, the biggest question is, when do we set Galadriel up with a kingdom of her own? Do we do that before the end of the first age, or do we wait for the second age for that? And also, I guess we might as well say, what is her first kingdom? Is it Eregion? Is it not Eregion? Of course, so the problem, I mentioned before, of course, Tolkien not having fully answered this question. Perhaps a better way to say it, the bigger problem is not that Tolkien never answered this question, but that he answered it like 3 times and differently each time. So there's a bunch of contradictory concepts of Galadriel's role, especially sort of Galadriel in the Second Age. There are some where she is ruling Eregion. There are some where she's not ruling Eregion, but she and Galadriel are like the overlord and lady of the elves of Middle-earth, basically.
It's definitely a Second Age thing.
That's definitely a Second Age thing, yeah.
And I was just thinking as he was talking about, do we want Galadriel to be completely absent from the havens of Sirion?
Yes.
I think that's part of the question, because
agreed.
If we decide that, then she needs to be doing something else. But at the end of the first stage, that's where pretty much everybody is going to be.
Yes, that's a really good way to focus the question, because that is a very critical element. On the one hand, I kind of don't want her there because it would complicate the leadership structure, and which is already going to be complicated with Círdan and Eärendil and Gil-galad. But with Galadriel, that's kind of a lot of cooks in that kitchen down there in the Havens of Sirion. And now, the Havens of Sirion are, it's a weird situation. We could make it work. I don't think we definitely can. But again, it would be easier for her not to be there in some ways.
So then we go back a step and go, is she at Doriath when it falls? So maybe kind of going back, we can kind of work out where we want her story to diverge from the main game.
Right, because while what happens in Doriath is something we need to work out, and who survives and how they survive and where they go afterwards, most of the characters who survive will end up at the Havens.
Right.
Yeah.
We do have green elves in Assyrian, and at least one of them needs to survive long enough to end up in Thranduil's kingdom in the Third Age.
Yes.
So we need to get them out of Beleriand as well before Osirian sinks beneath the waves.
Yes. Yes.
So do they go to the Havens
close.
Or do they go over the mountains? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that would be... But that would be a group that could not go to the Havens and instead go over the mountains. And so and she already has a connection with the elves of Assyria, and the elf that we need to survive is her sister-in-law, that she's already traveled over the mountains once with.
Exactly.
So if we need to divert her in that direction, that's the people group she would be with. And so to answer your original question of, does she get a realm of her own in this first age? the only realm that's really up for grabs isn't much of a realm, and it's Assyrian, who are like, we're the Green Elves and we don't take a king.
Right. Right.
But she could order them around.
Right. That's not to say she couldn't warm up. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
unless we carve off some population of Noldor, like ex-Fëanorians or and so on, who follow Galadriel.
True. In the aftermath of the internet, things are jumbled, so she could try to carve a space for herself.
Yeah.
Out of a remnant.
Yeah.
It seems like she would go to Nargothrond if she was interested in doing that. But I don't know that we want to put her in Nargothrond right now.
I think we want to keep her miles away from Turin.
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
In Doriath, that's what we've established.
In the Doriath part,
right? Yeah, when he's a kid, it's fine. Yeah, it's just in his later career. I mean, it's hard to imagine. Yeah, like there would be friction between Galadriel and Turin in Nargothrond. Like, I think there would have to be there.
But I mean, I can imagine a storyline where, if she's still in Doriath at the second kinslaying, that she gathers some people. She, like, some of the Fëanorians may peel off at that point of like, no, I've had it with you guys. Like, this is. Like, there'll be, we're told that happens in the third kinslaying, but I can imagine some people, the second kinslaying was a bit much for them.
Yeah.
And that might be an opportunity for her to accumulate Noldor and Sindar that she's a leader of.
Right. Yeah, I would, well, going back one step for a second, there is an argument for having her at the Havens. Here's my primary argument for having her at the Havens. And that is, I kind of want her, like, right in the middle of the action for the last battle. And when, like, her being, like, offered to go back west and turning that down, like, I don't want that to happen by correspondence, essentially, right? Like, so the idea of her being over the mountains in Eriador or Rovanian somewhere, right? Like way, way, way far from all of the action at the end of the first age. And for what? Her to hear rumors, or what? Did the Valar have to send an emissary to her to invite her and get refused? Like, that gets weird, right? So in some ways, having her still there in the middle of the action will make her, because that seems to me a really pivotal moment for her character, right? Is that moment where she rejects going back. If we're going to do what we do and play the long game of setting up Lord of the Rings things, like, we really want to make a kind of a big deal, I think, of the moment when she has her standing there at the edge of the sea while the Teleri depart with everybody else and her choosing to stay. And it's not impossible to do, but it's going to be harder to do if she's way inland.
And it also sets up the impetus for her to go and set up the kingdom at that point.
Right. Right.
I was also thinking she's not going to be in a hurry to go over the mountains again. I mean, she was burned, and she knows what's over there. There's an empire of men over there. Right. There's not a lot of I know she didn't do a vast exploration of the region, but I can't imagine she would go over the mountains until Beleriand is sinking under the waves.
And the remnant of the elves are all headed in that direction. Yeah. Yeah, so you've got Eregion being established somewhere, whether it's by her or by Celebrimbor.
Lyndon.
Yeah, Lyndon being established by Gil-galad. So yeah, it is going to have a different flavor. Then, of course, like, having her go over sooner and establish even thinking of the way in which, of course, I'm thinking in Third Age terms here, but thinking ahead to the Third Age and Lothlorien and the way that Lothlorien, the kind of implicit, I don't know, this isn't going to be fair to say, but there's a kind of implicit hostility between Lothlorien and the human realms. Like, at the very least, the human realms almost all interpret Lothlorien as, like, dangerous and hostile, and are rarely corrected by, so even in a sort of a passive, there's this sense of like, again, not hostile. It's not like she's being hostile to the humans. That's not what I'm trying to imply. I know Eorl the Young and everything like that. But what I'm saying is the sort of posture that she adopts at Lothlorien is one of total separation from sort of total official separation from the humans, which total separation leads them to conclude that, the realm is distant and hostile.
Kind of like Doria, really.
Right, exactly. And so I'm wondering, thinking about what you were saying about Eriador and the Empire of Men and stuff, I could imagine her being like, okay, I'm going over, but this time, instead of going over trying to build bridges and like make allies, I'm going to go over and I'm going to fort up over there. Right. And I'm going to create a little elvish enclave. I'm going to carve out a little elvish enclave somewhere in Eriador, that is, where like the armies of the great king are not going to be welcome.
Well, Eregian's where it is because of its proximity to Khazad-dûm, though, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, what's like? Why would the elves set up the? I mean, that in my head canon, that's always what I've assumed. But
we certainly don't learn about it until we learn about their relationship.
Galadriel's as part of the establishment of Eregion, it's not simply I'm finding a place in Eriador randomly.
Right. Right.
So
right. But if we want her isolationist approach to be a response to the betrayal of the Nirnaeth, then I do think it is a bit antagonistic towards humans. Like, it's not just that they're not there. They're very actively not invited.
Right.
And I think that's a fair interpretation on their part of what she's doing.
Yes.
If it's in response to this, well, I was betrayed once, tricked me once, shame on me, tricked me twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna whatever. I did that backwards, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I once burned, twice shy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep. No, she's been burned, and it would be it would be a response to that. Like, I'm not going to mess around with this anymore.
If she does it in the first stage, though, we've still got that. I mean, the empire's going to decline, like on its own, right?
Yeah.
It's going to,
By the time Eregion is established, I think it can be definitely on the wane. Kind of broken up into petty kingdoms or whatever by that time.
Yeah, but that's not in this between now and the end of the first age. We don't have a lot of time between now and the end of the first age.
Wait, how much time do we have, by the way, Marie? What's our time frame?
I think Marie's frozen.
Oh yeah, hang on. Sorry, we lost Marie before.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
We end this season in 490. And the end of the first age timelines would be like 580.
Yeah, so less than 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's time enough for an empire.
100 years.
But
right. I mean, though we need a reason for it to collapse in the next 100 years. Like, we need some Visigoths or something to come in.
A series of weak king above kings, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
They lost Ulfang, right? That was a big blow.
They lost Ulfang. That's the beginning of the end.
And a significant chunk of their army.
Yeah.
Like
it's true. It actually kind of would be fun if you basically can date the decline of the empire from this moment, right?
I think you can. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, the death of Ulfang, the loss of that big chunk of the army. It's not going to collapse overnight, but it's the beginning of the end.
So when the elves do go over the mountains, it's not going to be what Galadriel encountered the first time.
Right. And actually, that could be really fun. Like, for Galadriel to see that and be like, whoa, in 100 years, this place is totally different than it was 100 years ago, which will blow her mind a little bit, right? Yeah, it'll be the first time she's really seen that. Like, she will have seen change in Beleriand, of course. But those are all things that were precipitated by, like, a massive act of Morgoth, like the Dagor Bragollach or the Nirnaeth, right? Just like the organic culture change within a human civilization that could happen within 100 years is, I think, going to probably surprise. It would certainly be the first time she will have seen something like that.
This is another impact of the Near Ninth, right?
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
that it just destroys this empire.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's. I think that's cool. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I don't want to detach Galadriel. I want to be very careful about not boxing ourselves into a corner and detaching Galadriel too much from the invitation to return. We can absolutely not make it look like she just didn't get the invitation, right? And stayed like by default or something. So even if we send her over the mountains, we need to keep that in mind and make sure to get. Now we can always do that, I think, by like involving her in the last battle, right? In the War of Wrath somehow. She can come back for that and therefore be there when it's there. So it doesn't mean she can't go. But again, as far as the Havens are concerned, that's, as I say, that's my counter argument to her not being at the Havens, because it would be nice for her to be around for the final things.
So would the birth of Galadriel be after she rejects the offer? Like she's decided to stay in Middle Earth, she's decided to settle down and have a family, all of that sort of thing.
I would think so.
Because I was always assuming it was going to happen sometime in the Second Age.
I would think so.
I wasn't sure.
I think in the context of like the story, it's hard to imagine Galadriel at any point in the next 90 years feeling like she's settled to the point where it's time to have kids.
No.
Even if she establishes her own kingdom, it will still be like only the dubious beginnings of her own realm in the best of situations, and likely not even that. So yeah, no, Galadriel's got to be Second Age, I think. Good, but that makes sense, right? Now, okay, the War of Wrath is done. Morgoth is imprisoned again. Everything's going to be fine. I'm setting myself up as I've rejected the invitation of the Valar, and I'm setting myself up in a new kingdom. Kid time.
It just occurred to me as you were talking that, we've made much of the idea that elves don't have children in times of war, but Elrond and Elros and various other elf children are going to need to be born for our story. So we're going to need to. This is not a Galadriel specific issue, but I was just thinking, like, when they're in the Havens of Sirion and Elwing and Eärendil get married and so on, and they have their children, we have to project that this is really a time of peace.
Yes.
Like there are periods where people are kind of breathing out and thinking, this is a good time to have children.
Yeah.
It's also important to point out that the half-elven develop at the human rate.
Right.
So Dior reaches adulthood in his early 20s.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get married and have kids within a window,
right?
Yeah.
Right. He can't wait 400 years.
That's probably not happening for him, right?
Yeah.
So same with
Eärendil.
Elwing and Eärendil, and therefore the birth of Elrond and Elros.
Yeah, that's
so
true. Yeah,
even if the elves are like, everything is terrible right now and we're refugees with no home and we couldn't possibly have families, the human refugees at the Havens of Sirion aren't going to be changing how they live on account of this.
For sure.
Life goes on, or it doesn't, but
yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think is going to be really fun to do, actually, because we've done a fair bit of work, especially in the last couple seasons, of looking at human culture, elvish culture, the contact between those two things, the differences and tensions that arise from those things. When we get to the Havens, we're going to have a totally new thing, which is a culture of half-elven. Because there's like it's like the greatest concentration of half-elven in one place ever. And that'll be fun.
And they're in charge.
And they're in charge. Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And they are, in a sense, also the perfect expression of the whole spirit of the Havens, right? Like where the elves and the humans have come together. There's no more like, and the humans have gone among the elven realms. Like, no, like everybody is all in one place and it's one group group culture, one new culture formed from the humans and the elves all living together, and the half-elven are in charge.
And it's not an exaggeration to say that the Silmarillion is the story of all the people who are related to Elrond.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Everything connects to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize, though, until I joined SilmFilm, that the Silmarillion was the story of cross-cultural interaction.
It's very interested in cross-cultural interaction.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You would be forgiven for missing it, considering the end of the first stage is the part that never got written.
Yes. Yes.
There's allusions to this stuff,
yeah.
but it's not there.
So are there other half-elven? I mean, who are in the leadership? I mean, we don't have to go there.
The only one that comes up is Mithralis and the ancestor of the Prince of Dol Amroth. Yeah. And other than that, we're not told of any other than the ones that are in this story.
Though the very presence of that situation makes it difficult to imagine that kind of situation never arose anywhere else in Middle-earth at any time.
That's why. Yeah, we're only told of that.
We could, if we wanted to. We could make more half-elves in the Havens, especially.
In the Havens or in the Second Age?
Or in the Second Age,
definitely room for those stories, yeah.
But
anyway, so Galadriel's not having children makes sense.
Yes, Galadriel not having kids totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And by the way, just last night in Mythgard Academy, we're getting towards the end of the Peoples of Middle-earth, and we were discussing the problem of Ross chapter in the Peoples of Middle-earth, which included, of course, a long discussion of the Havens and Elrond. And my favorite bit was the new conception of Earendil's message to the Valar. Where we get all the linguistics of it. Ilana, is great fun, right? Where he first delivers the message to the Valar in Sindarin, specifically because Sindarin was the lingua franca of the Havens. So he speaks it in Sindarin on behalf of everybody. Then he repeats it in Quenya to acknowledge that the Noldor are part of this and to name the elephant in the room, right? That there's the doom of Mandos in question and they know they're banned, but can they please? And then he gives them a prayer in both the language of the people of Beor and the language of the people of Hador, saying in each language that they totally weren't banned and just came. Yeah. And the thing, the sort of the realization that I came to last night, this is my favorite moment of last night's class, was realizing, and I almost alluded to SilmFilm, but I didn't, but I was totally thinking of you guys, the way that he characterizes, especially the prayer in the Beorian and Hadorian languages there, was he characterizes Earendil's mission as the final fulfillment of Beor's quest to find the light in the west. The same quest that inspired the journey of the people of Beor from the beginning is achieving its fulfillment in Earendil in that moment. And I was like, oh man, we got to play that. I was thinking to myself, we really got to play that up in SilmFilm. That would be awesome. Yeah. I'm seeing Phil doing a, with themes of the Light of the West song, right, being played as we're going in. Don't worry, Phil, that we don't need that until season 12 or 13, but 12. That's 12. What I mean. 12. 12 is the end. 12 is the end.
Yes.
Season 12. We don't need it until season 12, but yeah, we'll definitely want that. Anyway, it's pretty cool stuff. But the point is, it was he was emphasizing how heterogeneous and combined and multilingual and multi-ethnic, the community at the Havens was, and yet unified, right? So anyway, yes, the half-elven thing will be fun. But anyway, yes. But now we're totally distracted thinking about season 11 when we do the Havens.
If our message for the Havens is all of these people coming together and working together, and Galadriel is on what works out best, is being as insular as possible.
Right.
If she does end up down in that area, it would be doing her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like she would be separate from the
Yeah.
group in
Yeah.
some way, and therefore setting up on her own.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people she'd have, but
Right. It could be a first
So
step.
we've got space to step her from where she is right now in our story after the near ninth and whatever, whatever struggle she's going through to reconcile that and her involvement with it, to coming to an isolationist position. I suspect that's not quite where we start.
No.
And she may, we've got time for her to come to that through a series of other things that happen in the story. I don't know what yet, but
Yeah.
I don't think we need to rush that.
No. And one other related dynamic, I think, to that one is increasingly not yet, because Thingol and Melian are still there, and Doriath and Turgon is still in Gondolin, but after the fall of Doriath and the fall of Gondolin and the fall of Nargothrond, she's going to find herself like the senior statesman.
Yep.
I mean, Fingon's gone,
she's not the
Turgon's
High
gone,
King.
Finrod's gone, Fingolfin's gone, like all of her peers are gone. Arathel's gone. Like almost everybody from her generation is gone at that point. And so she will be, again, this is why like leadership gets complicated by her presence at the Havens, because she is clearly like the senior member of the whole establishment at that point.
And Celeborn's the last one. Mablung's still kicking around maybe, but
yeah,
Celeborn's been there since season 2 as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Celeborn and Galadriel become very clearly the senior voices of elfendom in Middle Earth at that point. But I don't think that necessarily means that has to like springboard into trying to seize leadership, right, at the Havens or necessarily anywhere. Like there could be, this is meant to contribute to what you were saying before about it potentially being more of a process, Ilana, right? Like there could be, she could be more of, see herself in more of a like mentor role in some way. Or she could separate herself, she could.
Well, are they mentors to Dior when he comes, for example?
Presumably. They'd almost have to be, or at least Celeborn would almost have to be at the beginning, one of Thingol's trusted counselors. After the death of Thingol and the departure of Melian, when Dior is established as king in Doriath, Celeborn absolutely becomes the senior guy there.
Celeborn was at Cuiviénen, wasn't he?
Think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he really is.
Really is senior.
Like him and Kidon are
yeah.
Old elves.
Exactly. Okay, so let's think for a second a little more abstractly. And let's think big picture. Like Galadriel's whole arc. Because we've been talking about, we've been talking for a while about how Galadriel and Sauron, both of them, we have to be really careful about how we handle their arcs. Like we can't let ourselves go too fast with either one of them. With Galadriel, there are two absolute fixed points, I think, that we have to deal with, right? One is the rejection of the invitation of the Valar at the end of the First Age. And the second is the turning point with rejecting the ring with Frodo in the Lord of the Rings, right? So those are like the absolute fixed points that determine the whole rest of the arc. And the rest of it, we have some stuff. I don't call them fixed points in the same way because Tolkien told different versions in the Second Age, with her. But those two, the two like clear, no doubt about it, fixed points are those two. And so we need to, right now, we need to focus on how do we get her to that first one? And how do we want that first point, her rejection of the, how do we want to get her there? And how do we want her to come out of that? Like, what is her response to that? Where does that take her? And how do we then want to point it? We don't have to make all the decisions between, the second and third age decisions right now. We can figure that out a little bit later. But what's going to take her, where she's going to go from, how she's going to get to that first inflection point of rejecting the invitation of the Valar, and what that is going to immediately springboard her into, seem to me the biggest picture questions that we need to answer in order to fit the rest of this story into it.
I always understood the rejection as being because she still wanted to have kingdom. She, not that she'd already established one, but
right.
That was
right.
her goal.
That desire was unfulfilled, and it needn't be merely, of course, it needn't be merely a corrupt desire. As we've dealt with since season 2.
There might be people around her who need
right.
leadership.
Absolutely.
Like stepping into a vacuum,
And she struggled with the whole initial kinslaying in the first place because she was there and
yes.
her mother died, and she's with the Noldor, but she's also very close and family and friends with Teleri.
Yes.
So by the time she got to Beleriand, it was like, what was my role in that? How much of that was my fault? Yeah. What should I have done differently? Like she kind of was having a struggle with all those things.
Yes.
At the end of the first age, when all the Noldor are invited back, even the ones who were part of kinslayings, who were the ones the Doom of Mandos was definitely aimed at.
Yes.
She probably feels that she is not in need of a pardon the way they are. Mm-hmm. So why should she accept a pardon when she didn't do anything all that bad?
Right.
I think there's some pride involved is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, she's had a lot of time to work through the guilt.
And I have things to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she probably has new guilt from this whole Nirnai situation with the betrayal of the Easterlings, but I don't think she thinks that she deserved the Doom of Mandos.
Yes.
She kept walking across the ice, so she earned it.
Right.
But she doesn't think it was ever fair that it applied to her or her people.
And in a sense, that, although that might not be what, the target that Celeborn was aiming at in helping her work through things in season 4, that could well be a place where she got to, right? And part of her own dealing process, right? Her own coping process in season 4. She needed to come to a point of forgiving herself, right? But I think part of that might also have been a place of saying okay, no, I feel horrible about what happened, but I didn't do it. It's okay because it isn't my fault. And then that can snowball into exactly that situation. No, I've dealt with this. It's not my fault. I don't need the pardon of the Valar. Yeah.
And I wanted to stay anyway.
Yeah.
But the rejection, not just because she's staying, but because she never asked for their forgiveness, I think is part of what's going on with her. Yes.
The pride element, that of course is directly anticipating the second inflection point, right? It is her step of humility to not take the ring. Yes. That is going to be her final pivot at the end. And so we certainly need to be setting up for that. And I think the two inflection points are explicitly connected, right? That she is reversing in the second one the mistake that she made in the first one, in some sense. It's not exactly the same situation, but and that pride and humility seems to be the core of the link between them.
Yes. And you can justify a lot of things to yourself. So she would never need to admit that it was pride that stopped her from accepting it.
Yes.
So at the time, she has her arguments of, oh, I need to stay here, and there's so much more to do, and why would I go back now? Like, she can say all those things, but we should probably provide some hint of other things going on.
She's also married to someone who never crossed, so, you know.
Well,
you know.
yeah, and that
I mean, some of the
insular...
Sindar are going to go, but some of them presumably are also reluctant to leave Middle-earth.
Right. It loops back to that question of where is Elven home? Is it in Middle-earth or is it in Valinor from our second season? And Celeborn has been a vote for definitely here, you guys.
Definitely here.
This whole time. Yeah. And with her taking on the ring, she, in the Third Age, makes Lothlorien Elven home.
Yes.
Like, that's what she's doing with it.
Yes.
So it's, you know, little Valinor, if you will. But the the failing that Celeborn has by the time you get to the end of the Third Age is he really doesn't trust dwarves at all, or like them, and never got over it. And that is usually used as an argument for he was at Doriath at least the first time it got sacked. But if he wasn't there, then it would be, and I'm guilty about not being there to save the people that I cared about. And therefore I can never get over it because I can't fix what I wasn't there to,
And there's
we could go either way with it. But,
there's plenty of opportunity for us to introduce new grievances with the people of Khazad-dûm during their history. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It usually ties back to Doriath.
Oh no, absolutely. That can be the beginning of it. Yes, exactly. All
Elf-Dwarf conflict does.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. How do we think is the best way? Because this seems to be bringing us now more pointedly back towards these next couple seasons. How do we show that pride beginning to grow in Galadriel? How is that pride manifested pre-invitation? How does it impact or influence her interactions with the rest of the elves?
I don't think she starts this season there.
You don't think she what?
She starts the season.
No. She doesn't start it arrogantly. She's in a low place again at the beginning of this season for sure. But I'm thinking so.
But we are about to send her as ambassador to the remaining Fëanoreans.
Yes.
And if there's anybody that she's like, well, and at least I'm not as bad as those guys.
Yes.
It would be the Fëanorean.
Yes.
Some conversations with Caranthea might be soon.
Yeah. So she might walk out of that with well, at least I'm not like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be the kernel of eventually becoming I never needed forgiveness the way the other Noldor who are part of the problem did.
Right. So
it might be
because at this point her brothers are all dead. So the other innocents that she would be thinking to group herself with aren't even around.
Right. She's now the only representative.
Have that conversation with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's decided for herself that all of them were innocent and don't need the forgiveness.
Right. Okay, so in my head, I'm clumsily dividing the rest of the First Age into like the current state, which is in a mess, but with the 3 strongholds still in place. And then afterward, they're going to fall in fairly quick succession. Right. So, there's going to be a little bit of time, but I'm basically thinking like before and after the fall of the last Elvish strongholds. Right. So you've got the Havens period, the final end, and then you've got the time now. And so thinking about Galadriel's general progress, like not specifically about where she'd be from beginning to end of season 8, but again, just thinking bigger picture here. With these factors in mind, she not yet being the total senior person, she's still obviously junior to Thingol and Melian, for instance, right? And even like she's senior to Orodreth, but like whatever. Anyway, she's not senior to Turgon, right? So they're also like, so she the whole, like, I'm the senior statesman, that's going to be a dynamic in the second stage, not the first stage. But like, I'm thinking about that growth of pride, right? And it seems to me that one of the things that's necessary is a kind of separation of her. More and more, I'm thinking she's not there at the fall of Doriath. Celeborn might be, but I think that she probably isn't.
I think that however we play the interactions with the Fëanoreans precipitates this.
Right.
Somehow.
Right.
That's what lights a fire under her.
Yes.
However that plays out.
Yeah, and what does it look like at first? Like, okay, so the first thing she's got to do is cope with the fact that she's upset. But her upset, like, the low spot that she's in at the beginning of season 8 is not the same thing as the low spot she was in at the beginning of season 4. The first one was guilt, grief, mourning for her mother, trying to cope with the doom of Mandos and the whole situation, and her relationship to it. Now, I would think it just as likely that she would be ticked off as it would be that she would be depressed. Because she had a plan. Her plan ought to have worked. Now, like, and it's not her fault. Like, it's not her fault. She knows it's not her fault. Her own, like, the happy ending we gave her with Boar should help to, like, make her see that it was not her fault.
Yeah, she's past. I agree with that. It just occurred to me that if, like, the Fëanorians are out there in East Beleriand and not far from Assyrian, like, there could be sort of contentious stuff going on between the remnant Noldor in East Beleriand and the Green Elves.
And the Green Elves.
She could intervene.
They could be trying to impress the Green Elves or something, like into the army or something, you know.
Because they're going to be quite haughty with respect to the Green Elves now.
Totally.
Now that they're actually encroaching on territory, like, it didn't matter when there was plenty of land, and like they were busy with the siege and you know.
Yeah.
But now they have to coexist, and that's not going to be pretty.
No.
Yeah.
And
so that could be something that lights a fire under Galadriel.
By the way, I think that like, Curufin certainly blames Galadriel for what happened to the Near-Knife. Like, that's, you know, I don't think Galadriel necessarily blames herself. I think that she can see that this was not her fault. That had her plan worked out, it would have been good.
Do any of the elves recognize what role Sauron played in the betrayal?
I don't see how.
Right, like nobody knows about that, right?
Nobody knows
except for there was no situation where Galadriel had any sense that Sauron was over there.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because now Sauron has presumably sent the remaining Easterlings into Dor-Lomin, so they know. But have the elves put that together at all?
Yeah, they know, though they don't understand it. I mean, like, they don't really know
like
they
don't know, and they don't know how that connected to the death of all thing, right? Yeah. So the only people who knew that Uldur killed his father would be Uldur and his brother.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody is even in a position
and they're dead.
to find out.
And Sauron may not look like the same.
Yeah.
Right. So we know they're not necessarily recognizing him as the necromancer from back home either.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. No. Now, Galadriel might guess. Like, it's not... When something goes that catastrophically and unexpectedly wrong... So, like, one thing that she could learn, or have learned, was that Ulfang was not leading when the humans betrayed the elves.
Well, they knew he died.
They knew he died. Right. So she can begin with, like, that, like, her suspicion that he was murdered and that there was foul play afoot and that, gosh, maybe one of the servants of Morgoth was involved. And if so, who could that possibly be? Like, it's not a huge leap for her to reason out that something went wrong deliberately, and that may have had and that Sauron might be to blame for that. She wouldn't be able to prove it, but she might suspect.
And the men considered it a really ill omen that Althing died right before the battle. The elves are like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because, people don't just die.
Right. Right.
So
well, and it was weird at first, but in retrospect now, like, and that was what clearly led to the betrayal.
I was saying, and then they immediately betrayed. It's like, well, I had a deal with Ulfang. He suddenly dies, and then they betray us. Something happened. Like,
well,
that was foul play.
I'm not sure that it was foul play, but is it like demonic foul play?
Right.
Right. That I don't think she knows.
I mean, Uldor, like, she probably knew that Ulfang had a not very comfortable relationship with his children.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, she will have seen that.
Yeah, and so the fact that, if Uldor murdered his father and then took over the leadership, that it's not necessarily driven by a servant of Morgoth.
No, but basically, it seems to me like there are really two choices for Galadriel here, right? She must either conclude that a servant of Morgoth, like as it might be Sauron, was involved in this plot to kill Ulfang and then turn the humans against the elves, or she's going to end up just like categorically distrusting humans from now on. Like, see if I ever, like, okay, so if that's what's going to happen, right? If at like the first, Ulfang,
generally the case with the elves, except for the three houses.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could go there, right? We could go. It depends on what we want Galadriel's relationship with humans from now on to be, basically.
She really likes Aragorn a lot.
She does like Aragorn a lot.
That's pretty far in the future.
The three houses of the Adine are beyond reproach. Like that. They're not like
they're not included in her. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the general case for elves, that they don't trust humans except for those three houses.
Well, agreed. And but again, like, it's what happened was really extreme and really fishy. So, like, again, like, it just seems to me like one of those, like, one conclusion is that there was an evil plot afoot, which of course in fact was true. Right.
Yeah.
Either there was an evil plot afoot and the humans were manipulated, in which case they're still weak and easily manipulated, right? So, there's always that element of it. The only alternative is you turn your back on humans for just a moment, and they're going to first betray and murder each other and then betray and murder you, right?
Right. That humans are fickle and untrustworthy,
and like, that's just
prone to this type of behavior, apparently.
Yeah. And honestly, like, are the Adine totally immune to this kind of suspicion? Like, I'm not even sure they necessarily are. Right. Yeah. I mean,
but then, we've got malevolence from Morgoth involved there as well. So,
right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, we're going to have Turin doing some questionable thing, and we're going to have the outlaws, and we're going to, so there's going to be a bunch of Adine related questionableness going on, even if she's not involved in any of those stories directly or even seeing that stuff happening.
Back in season 5, she was the one who interacted with the human settlements on Estelad, and basically had to have the humans explain to her, sometimes people do bad things, and what's she going to do? Capital punishment needs to be a thing here.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, we don't really do that usually. So her first introduction to humans was, humans are extreme and harsh, and they're weird.
Yes.
But I mean, she wasn't totally put off by them. But
that, yes, I mean,
the Adine being an exception is not necessarily just a blanket flip it. Oh yeah, but of course the Adine are fine. Like, she's met the Adine too.
Right, and it was questionable. So I guess I feel the reason that my own impulse is to have her suspect Sauron's involvement in the betrayal is that it enables us to have a a longer run on her relationship with men, rather than having her slam the door right now and have now the next age and a half to have to try to change that. As we know, it's going to be changed to some extent. Like Errol the Young, right? Like it's going to be changed to some extent.
It does, and it's Sauron. Like she knows it's Sauron because he's the lieutenant of Morgoth. I mean,
Well,
like, what does she know about Sauron?
What she knows is that these traitorous Easterlings were given Dorloman after the battle.
Yeah.
By Morgoth and Morgoth's guys. So that's why she's going to suspect that somebody from Morgoth's camp was responsible for this sudden death and sudden betrayal.
Yes. That this wasn't just men acting fickle in a particularly destructive way and then Morgoth rewarding them out of the generosity of his heart by giving them Dorloman. Like
no, I was just questioning whether she actually know. Like she
about
might
Sauron.
suspect the servant.
I don't think she knows.
Sauron.
How much does anybody know? So
that's he's been the tower, right?
Yeah.
So
they know about that.
She might know that Sauron killed her brother.
Right.
So she might know that. But the Thu of Dorthonion was really Thuringwethel. Like
right.
Like he wasn't even going by his real name, and the deeds that were attached to the name weren't even his deeds. So it's very murky. And she didn't know he was in the East as the necromancer. Only the Emperor of Bree and the local people knew about that. And she didn't know that he followed them.
Yeah.
We have kept Sauron really under the radar for the good guys to this point.
A few of them have met him.
Yes.
So presumably they would know him. Like, obviously, Angrod had a...
Right, few of them survived.
Well, right. Well, Mydrith, okay.
Mydrith would have had known about him because he was the one at Minas Tirith when it fell, right?
Yeah, but it fell because it was full of ghosts. Like
he saw the ghosts. I'm not sure he necessarily... Well, and he would have connected it to Sauron afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, the thing is, they knew it was Sauron at...
Minas Tirith.
So yes, they know. Yeah. So Orodreth knows.
Yeah.
And then when Mydros was captive in Angband way at the beginning of season 3.
Yes.
Middle of end of season 3, whatever. Yes. Back then, it was Sauron who killed his army and captured him. So there have been direct, and Sauron was at the Marath Atherthad. So Luthien knew something was up.
In season 7, at the beginning of season 7, the Gondolin episode, when we go back in time, the Eagles tell Turgon how Thu was defeated and so on. So they know about a Thu at the very least.
Right.
But has anyone connected it to, that's the same guy who captured Angrod,
or even the same guy who was at the Marath Atherthad, like...
Yeah, or the same guy who captured Mithras. Like, so or the one that Haleth encountered. Like, he's been doing a lot of stuff under all these guises, and I don't think anyone has put it together.
Agreed.
So the only one that was public enough for the elves to put a name on and understand the deeds of was Thu at the tower for 5 years.
Okay, hang on. This is an opportunity then. What if she suspects? Like, so she concludes... From the reward by Morgoth, right? Them being given Dorloman and stuff. She's like, okay, this was totally a setup, right? This is totally a setup. The murder of Ulfang at the last second and the this was totally a setup, right? So she smells a rat, but she doesn't know who the rat is. So she could go about trying to figure out who. Like that could be one of the things she's doing, is trying to who was the dude. She could sleuth out Sauron.
Are we putting Galadriel on a mission to find Sauron?
Kinda. Not in the same way.
A novel choice that we're making.
She's not looking for Sauron. She's trying to work out what happened.
No, see,
I think that makes sense given what did happen. She is actually trying to work it out,
especially when she realizes, Marie, that he killed her brother, and then she's got no, I mean, like, I hear you, but no. So the difference is, right, the Rings of Power begin with Galadriel, like, totally obsessed about Sauron. He's the
Yes.
responsible for everything. What I'm talking about is her sleuthing out the fact that he actually
that
is
point.
responsible for everything. Right. Yeah, right. We've got to get her to that point.
We're
Yes.
doing the backstory.
Yes.
But it's more than, I mean, it happens to be Sauron, but what she's trying to do is actually work out what happened.
And what
It
is
makes me
Morgoth doing?
upset.
Yes.
Like given what happened at the Nirnaeth, and she's like, this is not, something happened. I've got to work out what it is,
And
and that can be a story for this season.
and what happens to you is an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to react with anger
Yes.
and to want to hold accountable the people responsible for causing this injustice. Like, that's a very normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas after the kinslaying, she was like upset and grieving and all that. If she's like, I am angry and on a mission now, that's a pretty understandable place for her to be right now, I think.
Especially
And
if she was
I think
responding.
the Fëanorians can set her up. by blaming her
Exactly.
for stuff.
Exactly.
Like, I can see how she would get angry.
I'm going to prove how this is not my fault. In fact, yes.
Right. And in the process of this, I don't know how much she'll uncover of what Sauron has been up to for the entire first age.
Right.
Because some of that, there's no way she'd
There's
ever
not a
figure
whole lot of evidence left. Yeah.
Right. There's not evidence. There's not witnesses. I mean, Thurin Gwethel is dead because Thurin Gwethel knew all of it.
Yeah.
But if she comes out with an understanding of
If you could capture Thurin Gwethel.
Yeah.
But
if she comes out from her sleuthing recognizing that there is one individual lieutenant, a non-Balrog lieutenant of Morgoth, who's not a dragon, who's not a Balrog, and is is a manipulator.
Yeah, because those are the high-profile servants of Morgoth, right? Everybody knows about the Balrogs. Everybody knows about Glaurung, right?
Yeah.
And so for her to basically say, like, okay, I have a theory. I have a theory that Morgoth has a stealth agent. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out
no
who that is.
Yeah. Right. No one thinks a dragon snuck into the camp and murdered all.
No. Or a Balrog. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, so what she's doing here is sort of theorizing Sauron's existence.
Yeah. Yep.
And then trying to prove that he exists.
Melian knows Sauron exists. We have to deal with that.
What does Melian know about Sauron's existence? Sauron was involved. Sauron was behind the spider invasion that led to the erecting of the girdle of Melian in the first place. Did Melian know that?
Yes.
She'd probably know.
And she's of the same order as Sauron is.
Right. I mean, that doesn't mean that they necessarily stay in touch or that she has an immediate, intuitive understanding of what he's doing. But nor do I think, by the way, that Melian can see everything everywhere.
His sneakiness is probably less key.
Sorry, go ahead.
We did give, I would say, his sneakiness works better with humans and elves, I would think, than with Maiar. But we did give Melian a ability to see things.
Yes.
The proto mirror of Galadriel. Melian has that. Right.
But I don't think it would be it's not like she can see everything everywhere. And certainly Morgoth can conceal some of his mind from her, like she's concealing her mind from him. And Sauron may be able to do the same. He may be able to cloak himself from Melian. He can't thwart her power completely, but he might be able to conceal himself.
Yeah. I mean, Melian may not know exactly what Sauron's been up to. I just meant
she knows he exists.
There's a non-dragon, non-Balrog servant of Morgoth out there that that's done some things.
Right. So in season one, Sauron was the one who found the humans first and then revealed it to Morgoth rather than to the Valar.
Yeah.
So up until that moment, he hadn't made his choice as to what side he was on.
Right.
So the Maiar and the Valar knew him as one of Ole's people, but he very specifically didn't go to Valinor with everybody, right?
Right. Right.
So they all know he stayed in Middle Earth. So yeah, so I think Melian, who is also somebody who stayed in Middle Earth, knows this.
She could, therefore, so she knows for sure that there is another major player, right, among the villains, who is not a Balrog and not a dragon, and who has been responsible for various things, such as the earlier invasion of Doriath by spiders. And so she knows he exists. She may theorize that it's Sauron, right? That it's Myron as was, right? That she knew. So we could have, therefore, something like a trajectory like this, where first Galadriel begins season 8 upset, sort of like torn between like a little bit of self-blame, but also anger and and a lot of frustration, right, about how things turned out and Ulfang's death and how fate seems to have been against, everything that she was trying to do. Then she goes to the Fëanorians as an ambassador, and Curufin is like, and it's all your fault, right? And then that pushes her over into like outrage, where she's like, it is not my fault, right? And she's like, yeah, there was a dark age, and then they're like, oh yeah, sure, that's what they all say, right? Then she goes back to Doriath and talks to Melian, and Melian is like, yeah, there's totally somebody who fits this profile. And she's like, right, okay, so what's he doing now? Like, where is he? I'm going to take an oath in bed.
I'm not that keen on then her pursuing him to the ends of the earth.
No, I get it. I'm not saying that exactly. But, like, what I'm saying is, so one way to solve the what is Galadriel up to problem, right, is she is like to make her like a free radical, right? She's not just attached to Doriath or any of the other of the 3 strongholds, and she's not going to be just attached to the Havens even in the way that Eärendil and the others are. So to some extent, she's going to be free floating. She could be anyway free floating. Sauron also is like the free floater on, so the two of them kind of correspond to each other. And again, although I know like potentially awkward parallels to the Rings of Power aside, the idea of setting up Galadriel and Sauron as antagonists even from this early stage, that could pay off perfectly well moving forward. Like,
yeah, well, there's a reason why Rings of Power.
Yeah, they didn't get that out of nowhere. Yeah, exactly. And so again, we don't have to do it. So again, I'm not talking about her but like basically, everyone else is going to be focused on homeland security, right? Nargothrond is all about like how do we survive as Nargothrond. Gondolin is all about we got to stay secret and survive. And they are sending out the ships and stuff, right? So there is that like one little side thing. Doriath is everybody's fording up. Right? If Galadriel is kind of countering Sauron in some sense, right? She's not just fording up. She's not just lending her strength to one of the strongholds. If she is, because she knows and she's going to have a grudge. She's going to be pissed off, right? I mean, Sauron thwarted, if she's right, she's going to, like, after her conversation with Melian, she would theorize, like, no, it was Sauron's fault. He's the one who foiled my wonderful Easterling plan.
But what's she going to do about it? I mean, I
don't know what she's going to do about it.
Up until that point, I can see the story.
Yeah.
But after that, like, under the circumstances, given how difficult travel is in Beleriand, and like there's orcs everywhere, and there's dragon on the loose, and so on. Like, people are traveling, but it's really difficult, which is, I guess, one of the reasons why we're sending her out east, where things are a bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
If we're kind of trying to push her in a direction of, taking on some leadership, or like striking out on her own in that way, say with the elves of Assyrian or something like that, then how does that? That was a genuine question. Like, how does that match? I mean, finding out through her conversation with Melian that there was in fact a malevolent spirit person involved, and it wasn't just the humans. Can be quite satisfying to find that out, but there's not anything really she can do about that.
Well, again, this is why, at the risk of sounding like she's swearing an oath to hunt him down, like, nobody feels more keenly and painfully than she does right now how much damage Sauron can do if left on the loose. He's been left on the loose. Nobody's been looking out for him. Everyone's been focused on Morgoth and his armies. And there's been this guy who's been around causing trouble, and she can speculate about some of the things that he might have been responsible. Melian will know a couple of the things he's responsible for. She could speculate about others. She knows even if she only has the 2 data points, the invasion of Doriath at the beginning and the Nirnaeth at the end, she knows this guy is a problem, and he is a problem that nobody is addressing. Everyone is thinking about the dragon. Everybody's thinking about the orcs and the armies, and they should be. But on top of that, there's this other problem that nobody... And who knows what this guy's going to get up to next? Maybe he's going to find where Gondolin is and lead an invasion into Gondolin. Maybe he could threaten any one of the kingdoms. Who knows what could happen, right? So, like, if I'm Galadriel, I got to think, like, I need to find this guy. I need to find where he is and what he's doing, so that, because no one else can do this. No one else is available. I'm gonna find him,
nor
track him down,
nor looking for him,
and nor looking for him, nor even aware that he's there.
Yeah, because the most public thing he did was take over the tower at Tolkien, and that very famously didn't end well for him.
Right.
And everyone knows that Luthien defeated a guy who did that.
But now she knows that didn't stop him.
So he's not unassailable.
He's not unassailable, right. Exactly. So she knows he's Luthien vulnerable, right? Yeah. And if Luthien and Huon could take him,
as most creatures are,
admittedly, that's a high bar, but still, he's not unassailable. And she knows, like, but in the post-Luthien era, look what he just did. He just wrecked the Union of Maedhros, and, like, from where she's standing, he just wrecked it almost single-handedly. It would have worked. Her intervention into the Union of Maedhros would have brought about victory if it had not been, for, like, those meddling kids, right? Like, this is her situation. And so, and nobody else is in a position to care or do anything about it. But as a significant player who's a free agent, like, she has the ability to, but now there are 2 problems. I know, like, what on earth does this mean? What does this look like? But of course, we don't even know what Sauron's actually up to. So
remind us of that.
But you notice how potentially,
in some ways, it's easier to decide decide.
Yes!
It's easier to decide that Galadriel's on this mission before we decide what Sauron's doing for the rest of the First Age.
Yes!
Because now we know that depending on what he does and where he goes, it may or may not pique her interest.
Exactly. And also...
And get her attention.
So, we have two problems, right? And with two problems, we may have a combined solution. Our two problems are we have two major figures, Galadriel and Sauron, neither of whom is, according to the main stories, going to have any significant influence on events for the whole rest of the First Age, right? And each one of those things is a problem. Like, how do we describe what Sauron is doing and yet have it have no impact? Like, and how do we have Galadriel do stuff and yet have her play no major part in any of those stories? What if these two problems can be the solution to each other? What if the reason we don't have any stories about Galadriel is that she is doing something that other people don't know about, right? Which is hunting down and thwarting Sauron. And what if Sauron is not achieving anything because Galadriel is hunting him down and thwarting him, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be too simplistic about that, like, but like, you know,
there's potential there. Yeah.
There's potential there.
The one thing we definitely wanted Sauron to do in the remainder of the First Age was to be involved in Gondolin developing anti-Balrog technology, so that when Gothmog is killed in Gondolin, Sauron could be like, and I did that, about it. Like, that's supposed to be the end of the Sauron-Gothmog rivalry.
Right.
So we
do
have
him
the opportunity to have Myglin.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't figured out how to do it, but the idea is that if Myglin is the one who knows how to make the anti-Balrog technology, does he know that because he learned secrets from his dad, or did he learn secrets while he was a captive?
Yeah.
Or both? Like, is it a combination, or what happens there? But that's that's one thing we definitely want Sauron to do, and Galadriel to support that, because we do want Gothmog to die.
Yes. Yeah. No. And obviously, like,
Exalian's helmet needs to be Balrog proof.
Right. When we talk about Galadriel thwarting things, she's not going to be able to thwart anything he's going to do in Angband, right? Like, she's not going to be doing Angband infiltration, presumably. It's only field work from Sauron that she would get a chance to thwart. And again, I don't mean that she has to be in the thwarting Sauron thing full time, but
I mean, it's just even just discovering where he is, because I mean, he's not involved in Nargothrond. That's that's Glaurung's big moment.
Yeah,
and Doriath is taken care of by dwarves and elves. So it's
yeah, but why do the dwarves?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Doriath all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Is there a reason the dwarves decide that they need to go sack Doriath?
Is there a reason? Is it merely the native, the native selfishness and stinginess of the dwarves that lead them to try to claim the Silmaril? And I mean, like, Sauron could influence them before their confrontation with Thingol, especially if he found out about their their commission.
That gives Galadriel potential to interact with dwarves in a friendly way, actually. Which
does.
Can set up her kind of relationship with dwarves than Celeborn has.
Of course, the problem with Sauron influencing the dwarves is that they're in Doriath the whole time. The craftsmen, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, before they get there.
Right.
Yeah, because weren't they? I mean, the text says they were there already, weren't they?
Well, he talked to dwarves who were there, but we could easily have him, Thingol, talk to dwarves who are there, and then they go out to fetch their great craftsmen and bring them in, and that's when Sauron learns about it and gets at the craftsmen before they come in and plants the seeds, potentially.
Right. That's what I meant by influence the doors. I meant at that time frame.
Yeah, so
because I doubt Gamel Zerak is like already in Doriath.
Right.
So if we can show Galadriel understanding something has, like, there's something going on with the dwarves that's not their natural kind of inclination,
Right.
then I'm just thinking setting her up for her good relations with Khazad-dûm
Yeah,
later.
no, I agree. And that suggestion, Alana, led me to a further horrible idea. Like at some point, it will be time for me to stop like making horrible things happen to Galadriel, but I think it's not yet. Because of course, like she could be the one who makes the suggestion. Like, hey, let's open Doriath to trade with the dwarves. Like, I think that would be great. That'll work out fine. And that's why the dwarves are in there. And that's what then leads Thingol to be like, hey, dwarven craftspeople, like, let's do this Silmaril thing. And so it's not like the downfall of Doriath is her fault, but she could initiate that. And so just thinking of her having positive relationships with the dwarves, Ilana, as you're suggesting.
We haven't shown a relating to dwarves all in the past, have we? This would be a new dimension of.
Yes, I don't think we've had her.
So that goes against the idea that she's already isolationist. She's not there yet.
It's only after she gets burned by dealing with dwarves and dealing with humans that she becomes isolationist.
Well, but she doesn't get that burned with the dealings with dwarves. I think the point is she's not burned with the dealings with dwarves because she knows they're manipulated by Sauron.
Right.
Which she didn't know with the humans. This time she knows that because she's going to maintain a good, unlike Celeborn, she's going to maintain a sense that not all dwarves, yes, the dwarves sack Doriath, but not all dwarves, that kind of thing.
We could make her discover Sauron's involvement with the dwarven craftsmen and run to Doriath and arrive just too late to prevent Thingol's death. So she wouldn't be having bad feelings about the dwarf. She would blame that on Sauron again, because it would be his fault again.
And Celeborn could be really mad that people keep betraying Galadriel. So he could be mad at the dwarves on behalf of Galadriel.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they could basically just see that differently. Like, she blames Sauron and not the dwarves, and Celeborn's like, yeah, but it's the dwarves' fault, too, especially for what happens afterwards. And especially if he's there for that and she's not. Yeah. But.
Yeah, we'll have to work out.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, that's down the road. We don't have to go all the details.
But I think it's clear that she's not. Her immediate response to the Nirnaeth is not the isolationist.
Right.
Right. Setting up a kingdom. This needs to happen first.
The other thing, by the way, that the other opportunity that this leads is if she has a purpose, right? If she's the only one among all the elves who's focusing on Sauron, right? Who knows that there's this really troublesome dude around doing all these bad things. And most people don't even realize he's there because they're too busy looking at Balrogs and dragons. This also gives her, and not only separates her from everybody else, but also potentially puts her in a different kind of leadership position. Like, I could imagine there would be other elves who would join with her in the work that she's doing. She doesn't have to be alone herself. And so she would be, leading a perhaps mixed group of elves, which could change and which could grow. Like after the fall of Doriath, some could join her. After, there could be. So she's not establishing a separate kingdom. She's not being isolationist yet, but she could be in that way in a sort of separatist leadership position, not starting a fourth kingdom or something, or even starting an alternative to the Havens. She's just, again, leading a group of, mobile,
presumably like-minded.
Right, like-minded people who are with her on her mission, which is to oppose Morgoth, right? In the person of.
I mean, that's not going to look terrible. It's not going to look terribly different than assembling the outlaws.
Right.
We're not going to do that at the same time because she probably isn't going to figure out that it's Sauron, and even in this season, I would think that would be a next season reveal, but she at least gets angry in this season.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it depends when we have her talk to Melian. It could happen before the end.
Yeah, it could. Well, let's.
But she probably would not have formed a band to do something about it in this season.
But I think
so that would be after Turns Outlaws.
Yeah.
We've got a sense of what her interaction with the Fëanorians this season is going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if her trajectory, if her beginning down this road starts from the point of view of the Near-Ninth was not my fault and I'm gonna prove it. That's a nicely like impure motive for what she's doing here. You know, that is, it connects with the pride issues that we were talking about. And she's not just a holy crusader here, right? There would be lots of room for pride there. You know, she could see, you know, herself as, again, remember her time with Melian too, right? I mean, she could even, in a sense, see herself as she sees Melian as like Morgoth's antagonist in Beleriand. The only one who's operating on anything comparable. She's not comparable, in fact, but like, that's kind of the setup, right? That it's like Melian and Morgoth, you know, the girdle keeping him out and everything. And that she would be like the mini Melian, with Sauron being the mini Melkor, right? She will set herself, again, I'm thinking about how this fuels her pride, right? And how it changes her self-image in ways where she feels, and Marie, coming back to the point that you were making before about her not needing the forgiveness of the Valar, she could easily bring herself to a place by the end where she's like, actually, I was hoping for a little gratitude and credit for all of the work that I've been doing, right? Like I've been doing your work over here. Like I've been doing the job. I'm the representative of Valinor over here, for crying out loud, right? Opposing the machinations of the enemy. Yeah.
So how does she discuss? Like she's you know. So she goes to the Fëanorians. Curufin says it's your fault. That's where it really cements for her. 100%. Actually, no, it's not my
Actually,
fault.
no, it's not. Yes. Yeah.
And we can have some, you know, maybe she's kind of on the fence, not really sure about that at the start of the season, but she's sure about it at that point.
Yeah.
Then, like, does she go to Dorloman and talk to Easterlings? Like, you know, like, how does she find this stuff out? Like, you know, like,
well, and what exactly does she have to find out? You know.
Yeah.
Well, and first we have to discover what is there to find out, of course, which we don't fully know.
So as far as what's happening in Dorloman is being repeated by messengers who come to Doriath in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
So the Easterling takeover and how that worked, she has access to that information. The fall of Thu, she has access to that. Tolkien, she has access to that information. Whether or not she connects these things together,
you know,
is
she
another
knew
story.
Brodda, for example. You know, she knew Brodda back, you know, like, you know, on the journey over. And so if she knows that there are some of the captains are still alive, and she can find out a bit more about what actually went down.
Why wouldn't she go talk to Brodda?
Yeah.
She knew him.
Yeah.
Maybe she does.
Well, I mean, you don't just walk.
That's
you
what
just walk into an enemy camp just yourself.
And if
I mean,
Morwen,
this army betrayed her personally.
I can't see it. I can't work. Like, it seems like that's what she would do, but I'm not sure that's going to tell a good story.
Yeah. No, me neither. But as far as like, I'm not too worried about Galadriel's personal security. Especially if she's alone.
No, it feels.
if we want to convey the difficulty of the messengers between Dorloman and Doriath, then Galadriel just walking in there, you know, like, doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't fit the bigger story we're trying to tell. But
if she's on
the other issue is,
find out
remember the whole reason. Yeah, the whole reason the Easterlings decided to fight the elves is that they were basically told that the elves had betrayed them, and that the death of Allfang was the elves' fault because it was an elven dagger that was used. And there were, you know, a bunch of elven daggers in that camp right about then, so that doesn't prove anything.
Right.
But they blamed Caranthir as the murderer.
Right.
Like, that was the story that was told to everyone. So I don't think they'd be like, oh, Galadriel, let's just sit down and talk, if she showed up.
No, they wouldn't. Could she? But that story, that Caranthir killed Ulfang, and that's why the elves can't be trusted and they turned against them.
She knew that because Bor knew that. I mean, like, knew that story. Like, it's Galadriel on the battlefield knew that was the story that was being told around the Easterlings.
Right.
And that was, you know, so that's not a secret. The thing is, and Galadriel knows it wasn't Caranthir, so that already triggers her to go, okay, there was something else at play.
And yet, by the way, she can still throw that back in Caranthir's face of how, you know, his own haughty actions are what, like, led everybody, like, why do you think they were so, like, willing to believe that you had been the murderer of Ulfang? Because you're such a jerk all the time. Anyway, okay, right, so she already knows. Yeah.
So maybe she hasn't kind of digested the fact that, you know, like where we started this season, she's starting to go, you know, that story, like, that's the starting point for my sleuthing, is like, this is, there's something else going on. But yeah, how does she discover? I mean, Melian can tell her it's Sauron, but now that we need to pace it to. If we pace that
to the end of the season, Maria, as you were suggesting, or like, we could do that at the end of the season, or we could do it at the beginning of next season. Thinking about just the shape of Galadriel's own story, having her end this season with that conversation with Melian, where she finds out about confirms the existence of Sauron, concludes that he must have been involved, and, you know, ends the season by saying, like, you know, I'll get that Sauron if it's the last thing I ever do, right?
We didn't want Galadriel to have a big. I mean, we don't have a big story for Galadriel.
We don't. This season. So, like, that would be a reasonable arc for her for this season, and then next season we can push off until next season. Like, what is Sauron actually up to, and what is Galadriel finding out, and how? Because she doesn't actually have to begin sleuthing until next season.
Yeah, if this is going to last for the whole rest of the first stage for the two of them, we can't get too far too fast.
Right, exactly. And
so figuring out that Sauron exists is a big deal. The elves have never put that together before.
Yes.
But that this is the same malevolent spirit that Luthien and Huon defeated.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and there's a bunch of other things that could, like, they wouldn't know, but they could easily speculate. I mean, like, the Merith Atherthod, like, they could guess, like, hey, this might have been him at the Merith Atherthod too. Like, we knew somebody was there, and this sounds like that kind of thing. She could, in theory, go back in sleuthing, but this sounds like a next season thing. She could go back and discover about the necromancer in the Barrow Downs. There would be ways to discover if she wanted to go back to, like, cover the back trail and see, like, if she's convinced that Sauron intervened in the Nirnaeth, but she wants to prove it, that would be one way to prove it, would be to retrace the steps of the army and see what evidence there is. And she wouldn't get evidence of him corrupting Uldor and leading directly to the murder of Ulfang. There wouldn't be any evidence of that. But she could go back as far as finding, yeah, there was this sketchy necromancer dude who was hanging out here, and then she'd be like, aha, see, there we go. That's where it picked up right there.
Because presumably the necromancer left right about the same time the army did.
Exactly.
Yep. And
exactly.
The people of Bree would know that.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. I mean, but again, that is beginning to feel like a next season thing. So if we thinking big picture, season 8 and 9 are Turin and the fall of Nargothrond. Season 10 is going to be the fall of Doriath. Season 11 is going to be the fall of Gondolin. Or 10 is going to be both.
Yeah, the idea is Doriath gets sacked a couple of times.
Right.
So I think we were going to sack Doriath the first time and then do the fall of Gondolin and then come back with the second kinslaying
and sack it again for good measure. Yes, agreed. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So but I'm forgetting, did we decide the fall of Gondolin was going to be 10 or 11?
10.
10. Okay. 10. And so 10, and then the second kinslaying is 11. And
right, because Dior is at least set up in Doriath by the end of 10.
Right. Okay. Okay. So this means that if Sauron is involved, we're thinking about anyway, Sauron being involved at least tangentially, having a hand in both the fall of Gondolin and the fall of Doriath. And so if Galadriel's hot on his trail by that time, that would leave season 9 to be she gets hot on his trail, right? Like her figuring out who he is, what he's up to, the kinds of things that he does, and kind of tracking him down. And then it would be her thwarting him. See, again, what I kind of love about this is it means we don't have to hold back so much about Sauron. Can have we can make big plans for Sauron. Like, we'd always thought that we couldn't make any big plans for Sauron, but we could make big plans for Sauron, and then they don't work out. So that's kind of fun. I feel liberated in my Sauron planning for the next several seasons. Yeah.
And he might never know that Galadriel is, he's got his plan. I mean, we've got jobs for him to do in the fall of Doriath and the fall of Gondolin.
Some, but they're smallish roles though. I mean, and not real active. I mean, not like Glaurung and Nargothrond active, so, I mean, again, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking it's not necessarily a game of cat and mouse between them.
Not necessarily. And remember also, he's on his own now. All of his lieutenants are gone. So he might not know exactly how he's being thwarted all the time.
Yeah, I guess that's
yeah, exactly.
That we can tell that really from Galadriel's perspective.
Yeah. It's
so really this season it's the Near Ninth was not my fault. That's
the Near Ninth is not my fault. Yeah, that's her arc. Right. I'm really upset about the Near Ninth. I'm angry as well as I process the fact that it's really kind of not my fault. Then I talk to the Fëanoreans and I get really mad and really insistent that it's not my fault. And then I discover that I'm right and I can prove it. Seems the more or less trajectory for this. This all is suggesting a really funny parallel in my mind. So in The Lord of the Rings Online, one of the really fun sort of subcategories of quests that they send you on is running ahead of the Fellowship of the Ring and clearing out obstacles that the Fellowship would have encountered if not for the fact that you had intervened, right? So it's one of the wonderful ways that they have of kind of dancing around the plot without interfering with the plot, right? But there are a number of occasions upon which you, as the player character, are involved in like preventing this complete disaster that would have certainly thwarted Frodo's journey if it hadn't been for your offstage heroics that no one will ever know about because it's not in the main story. And basically, like, that's the role we're putting Galadriel in here, right? Like, all of these things that Sauron might have accomplished, you know, for the more rapid and total destruction of Beleriand, had Galadriel not been going around and, like, behind everyone's backs and off screen doing all of these things to prevent these things happening, which, of course, would very much lead them to lead her to be in a position where she's like, you know, a pardon? I was really kind of expecting a thank you gift, actually, you know, maybe a little recognition, you know, for the heroic work I've been doing behind the scenes.
Right, because that's the issue with pride, is that you don't acknowledge the mistakes that were made because you're like, but see all my accomplishments and how awesome I am.
Exactly. And she would have reason to feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, maybe I also did these things wrong.
Yeah.
How is I mean, like, I'm thinking about her relationship with Celeborn throughout this. And some of these things he's going to be approving of, and some of these things he's going to be less approving of, I suspect.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, you know, this is there'll be. I mean, we'll have to manage the dynamic between that couple.
Yes.
As she goes on there. But.
The dwarf thing is an obvious opportunity for some separation between them and their perspectives on things, for sure.
Because we've had them spending time apart, but they were, you know, we've seen them as united as a couple. I mean, there's been nothing to divide them at this point. And
I would say, with the trajectory we were discussing for this season, I don't see any reason why they should separate here either. He also thinks it's not her fault, and is very ready to celebrate the great thing that she did, and would therefore, I think, be open to hearing like, oh wait, so there was a great servant of Morgoth who was behind that. Well, doesn't that just figure?
Well, we don't want. I mean, you know, I always, you know, think of Galadriel and Celeborn when we meet them in Lothlorien, and she says, and I've dwelt with him years uncounted, and I always think like they've just been a tight couple that entire time.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to like. We'll have to be careful with the way we play.
Exactly.
But then, like, some of the things that Tolkien wrote about the Second Age suggests that they didn't see eye to eye with respect to the dwarves. So
right, especially with the dwarves. Yeah, and again, I agree with you. I don't think we want to have a lot of distance, but we want to put distance between Galadriel and Kel, especially not before they have kids. But no, I agree with you. Like the united front that they are showing in the Third Age should be consistent, but that doesn't mean there can't be some, like, you know, spots. Yeah, exactly. And the dwarves, I think, could be a big sticking. I mean, I could even see the point, like when she's working with the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, where Celeborn's like, I'm out. Like, I know, like, you do your thing. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I'm not helping you with that. Like, so, you know, where they go their separate ways over the dwarf issue for a while in the Second Age and then come back together afterwards.
I mean, we see, you know, elf marriages where parties do go their separate ways because they become interested in different things.
Right.
And maybe it's something particular about Galadriel and Celeborn that they do come back together.
Right.
You know, like that's special. Like, very often at that point in an elven marriage, they would go their separate ways.
Right. Yeah. But I agree, we want to be cautious about introducing too many things. Sorry, Marie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We do know that they will eventually separate at the end of the Third Age when she decides to go sail west and he stays in Middle Earth. Yes. That difference will eventually come between them fairly permanently.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so therefore, I think that's a good reason to like they are still a unit and they're still together or have come back together, Alana, as you say, and that is a big deal. But that there should be some kind of history of not necessarily just tension, but of difference and focus between the two of them. I think it would be weird if Celeborn deciding to stay in the Fourth Age felt like it was weird and out of the blue to our viewers who have been watching them since season 4, right? By the time we get to whatever the heck season that is in the 20s or whatever, they will have watched Galadriel and Celeborn for 20 years, right? So it should not surprise them that they go their separate ways at that point.
I mean, he eventually goes to Valinor, so.
I think.
Or does he? I always thought he did.
I always assumed he did too eventually, but.
I mean, you get the impression that there aren't any elves in Middle Earth eventually, so they all have to either die or leave at some point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I can think of positive reasons why he'd choose to stay around with the remnant other elves who are not immediately leaving, and Galadriel goes because she's a ring bearer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they separate at that point for a clear reason of a difference that they always had between them. But I think that showing them move apart, come together, move apart, come together over time, we just need to defend any choice that's made with the actual circumstances in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it shouldn't, I don't think that like the Fourth Age separation should feel like a divorce when it happens, but
if Celeborn's sticking around in Doriath to mentor Dior, Galadriel doesn't have to be there then.
No, and wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think Celeborn's certainly not leaving Doriath until the fall. I think that's seems almost inescapable. And Galadriel can, she's off doing her thing. Yeah, but she'd check in eventually, or occasionally. We could have her coming back there occasionally. I don't think, I hear what you say about the passes into Dor Loman and stuff, and we don't have to have her go into Dor Loman and chat with Brada, but as far as her traveling around Beleriand, if Galadriel is traveling on her own, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's a big, what are they going to do, the orcs? I mean, couldn't she conceal herself? Couldn't she, sort of veil herself so that they can, I mean, I wouldn't think that would be a big problem. Glaurung could probably see through it. Sauron could probably see through it if he saw her, but I can't imagine that just wandering bands of orcs are going to be, and when I say I don't think they're going to be a big problem for her, I don't mean that she would defeat them at arms. I just mean that she would, elven glamour, I'm invisible and you don't see me, and they would walk right past. I don't think there would be much of a threat for her as far as her general mobility around when she wanted to travel.
Well, if she's got one of those cloaks.
Or could make one, yeah. It's hey, whatever happened to Luthien's old cloak, actually, right? Does anyone have that hair cloak still? Is that still kicking around somewhere? Yeah, I don't know. Oh boy, I did not even think of that. It would be like a literal taking up of Luthien's mantle. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was a good friend of Luthien's.
Right. Yeah. And again, Finrod was able to conceal himself. He was exposed by Sauron, but that was Sauron. Again, not the orcs. That was one of the points of Sauron being at Tol Sirion, where he was, right? Was so that he could control traffic. And he was the one responsible for that. So yeah. Again, not Sauron, not Glaurung, presumably not Gothmog, though who knows. Not that that's relevant, but yeah, I think she could move around.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I don't think going to Dorloman works is because we do want to like preserve the idea that it was tricky to
Yeah.
get in and out.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Besides which, it's hard to see how that conversation goes constructively.
And Brodda doesn't have much longer to live.
True.
So,
True. Yeah, that's true. Actually, if she doesn't even start on her quest until next season, Brodda's time's numbered.
Brodda will be, yeah, I mean, he's around next season. But...
Right. Right. And we are doing a couple year gap in between, right? So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Good. Well, I'm happy with that. In a sense, we've still pushed some significant decisions down the road, I think, but that's okay. Marie, next we really should probably talk about the villains. Like, this seems like a pretty obvious segue to talk about the villains next time, I think. What is Morgoth planning? Let's talk about the Curse of Morgoth.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about Glaurung, his overall plans, purposes, and strategies, and then Sauron and how he fits into all this.
Yeah.
And the escape of Gwyndor.
Right. And now we can also be thinking about what big plans Sauron might be hatching and wanting to put into place next season, which could be conveniently thwarted by a heroic elf matron out on her own.
Well, that might come from his lack of feeling like a lack of gratitude from Morgoth.
Yeah, I think that it's one of the fun things, right? That Galadriel and Sauron are actually kind of parallel to each other in that way, right? Like the unappreciated heroes who are really getting stuff done. Like increasingly, the two of them would be in the same position, and that's just fun, right? Come on, like that's so much potential, especially. Both of them are going to be in the same position to accept the pardon of the Valar.
Mm.
And both of them are going to reject it.
Mm.
So, oh man, the parallels just keep coming with these two. Like, it's going to be great. This is, I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. This is fun. Nick's going to be so pleased. He's going to be so pleased to discover that we decided that Galadriel should swear an oath to go on a hunt for Sauron, and that was our big idea. Yeah, so good.
It's fine.
It'll be fine. Okay, so we didn't talk too much about the Fëanorians, but
no, I just left that slide in there.
Yeah. Well, let's see. In like 2 minutes. I don't think we need much from them this season. Like, I don't think they're going to be doing much.
No, they're licking their wounds and trying to regroup. And we wanted to parallel them with Turin establishing the outlaws. So they're not getting very far.
But also like Curufin is going to be, like Maedhros' star has fallen, so we can show the change in the dynamic between the brothers.
And so basically we don't even need to bring them in. She doesn't have to get to the Fëanorians until like 2/3 of the way through the season or something. So because then she's going to come back from them to Melian at the end.
So why is she ambassadoring there? That's related to the demand for a Silmaril?
I think so.
The letter shows up.
Yeah, the letter shows up.
Yeah, so the letter arrives.
Yeah. The letter arrives. Curufin totally sent the letter. How do you feel, and Maria, I'm going to let you answer this first for obvious reasons. What's Maedhros' state like? Like, is he depressed? Is he withdrawn? Like, is he kind of like quasi-abdicating? Or is he like being overpowered? Like, how is he interacting with his brothers? I can see how they're interacting with him. I don't see how he's interacting with them.
Yeah, so the broke him in a way.
Yeah.
Because he like experienced Fingon's death.
Yeah.
And that he like opened himself up to that, and then that's what happened. So he did not, and then he just went berserk in the battle, right? So he was Fey during the battle.
Yeah.
So the aftermath of being Fey, you're not usually alive in Tolkien stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you get to the point of being Fey, that's it. Like you go do something crazy, and he did go do something crazy.
Yes.
And Maglar pulled him out of the battle.
Yes.
So he basically was intending to just die in the battle.
Yes.
Kind of. Like not deliberately, but he was making choices that were certainly leading that way.
Yes. Yes.
And now he's not dead. So he is somebody who is recovering from a bout of madness that should have killed him.
Is he actually, could he be separated like that? Like he's at like, maybe he's on like a retreat or something, you know, like he's actually sequestered himself from his brothers and is in some kind of like, you know, hermitage recovery state right now.
He's borrowed Amros's yurt.
Exactly. He's in Amros's yurt.
Right. He is not going to recover.
Right. He's not going to recover fully.
Whatever happened. Right. What he can obviously, you know, come back and talk to people, but his mental state moving forward is unreliable narrator. Like he thinks everything's Morgoth's fault because it is, but he doesn't necessarily take responsibility for his own choices and actions,
right,
or acknowledge that what they did was a problem in any way.
Right.
So he's still angry at Morgoth, can't do anything about it. So now the anger is impotent. He's defeated, so he's lost his command and authority and the respect and alliances he had with literally everyone, including his own brothers.
Right.
And he's still sworn an oath to recover the Silmarils at any cost, but he can't get them. So he's just not in a good place right now.
Definitely not. So I feel like it'd be really awkward to just describe, to depict him like in the room with everybody, but just like sitting there saying nothing, you know. I kind of like the idea of him isolating himself so that basically Curufin is running the show because Maedhros isn't even there, right? Curufin is running the show. Right. Maglar will be there. And Maglar would be like the only one of his brothers that Maedhros would see. So like he kind of goes back and forth between them sometimes, maybe like between whatever, like the yurt that Maedhros is living in and you know, so like the Fëanorean center at Amon Areb, which is where Galadriel will find them, would be run by Curufin. Like Maedhros might not even physically be there. And I would think that Curufin would basically talk about like, but Maedhros has taken the oath too. So like when the time comes, like they're going to call upon him to fulfill the oath. But by then it will be way too late for Maedhros to have any influence on events because he's not taking any part of it.
Right.
I'm thinking that Amras has been the kind of one in a very bad place for a very long time.
Yes.
As a consequence of the oath. I'm just wondering if there's a potential alignment between Maedhros and Amras at this point, rather than Maglor.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Maybe.
Except they were pretty close last season, and Amras was trusting Maedhros with this plan. And the whole Amras would be fine if everyone would just go die. Like that's fine with Amras.
Right.
So the Near Ninth plan, he was like, Union of Maedhros, let's go fight Morgoth. Sure, let's just go out fighting. I like this idea.
Right.
They all fought. They all got wounded. None of them died.
Yeah.
And they lost.
He's angry
so
about that.
I have to think, Amras has got to blame Maedhros for that and not be happy about it. So as much as they're both pretty upset, don't think they're united in this. I think they're at odds.
Yeah.
Right now.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. So Milos has got to build his own yurt. Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Would Galadriel have any reason to seek him out separately from his brothers?
I was thinking about that. What if he's in Assyrian, nearby, but isolated? So, like, Milos is just off in Assyrian, wandering on his own. And she could seek him out there.
Okay.
And thereby we would discover this. His state, that is.
But what would that, like, what would be gained in our story from that conversation?
I'm not sure. She, on the one hand, she's not going to take Curafin's answer as the answer of the Fëanorians.
Right.
She'd want Mithros' answer. And so she would be like to Magor. She'd be like, so what is he dead? And Magor's like, well, no. And she's like, well, then let's go talk to him.
Where is he?
So I think it would be, she would go and would get Curafin's unpleasant answer. And then she'd be like, well, but I'm not taking that as the answer. And then she would go and talk to Mithros, and then she would be like, well, crap, that's the only answer that there is, because Mithros isn't given one. So she would go back to Doriath and be like, well, I'm sorry to say, Curafin's answer is the only answer, and it's a crappy answer. So like, this is bad, people. Right. But at the same time, she would also say something like, but they don't seem to be any threat.
Right.
At this time.
The thing is, if she's all like, hey, you guys, that betrayal, totally not my fault. I mean, there's somebody there whose fault it clearly is.
Right.
I mean, the betrayal is not Mithros' fault, but the loss of the battle, it's on Mithros. And he takes it on himself.
Right.
Like, he thinks it's his fault.
Right.
So, I mean, they would maybe have something to talk about there.
Right. I mean, we could have her trying to encourage him that it wasn't his fault either. But she's not going to get through to him.
Right. If she... No, but if she wants to start voicing I think that this is all Morgoth's fault.
Right.
And I don't just mean in the sense that everything bad is Morgoth's fault. I mean, I think something happened.
Right.
And I don't think it was your fault. I don't think it was my fault. And I don't think it was Allthang's fault.
Right.
So what happened?
Right.
And so she could start getting in the right direction.
That conversation with
during
also,
that conversation.
She might want to be like, I don't think it's good for anyone that Curufin be in charge of the Fëanorians. Like, you know.
Yeah,
so
like,
she might
could you get your brother?
She might be wanting to see Mithros to also, like, by telling him it's not his fault, like by, you know, like to try and raise him.
Yes.
So that he is able to take on a leadership role again, because she sees that he's wiser than Curufin and and so.
Yep. No, I agreed. That would be a really good reason for her to seek him out. And I agree with Marie with your saying how her talking this through with Mithros helps her get to the place. Her first response to Curufin is just rage. Like, it's not my fault. Like, they're going to blame her. She's going to be real upset. Her first stage of processing that will be her conversation with Mithros. And then she can take it back to Doriath after that.
Yeah.
So
they could piece it together. Like, you know, this comes out of the conversation that there must be.
Yeah, I mean, Mithros has had at least 2 direct interactions with Sauron at this point. One where he got captive, but secondly, the whole impersonation one where it was Amrock.
Yep.
Those guys. I forget which one got impersonated, but that guy went and swears allegiance to Mithros in the aftermath, saying, seems like Morgoth has people who will impersonate you and speak for you. I should fight that guy.
Right.
You seem interested in fighting that guy. Let's fight that guy together. Like, that was how they bonded, was over
Mithros has
Sauron's
information for Galadriel.
Simplicity.
Yeah. Yeah. So he
does.
could.
I just don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to put it together.
No, he wouldn't put together the whole thing, but he could speak of, like, Amlach, and therefore that would be a data point for Galadriel, basically.
the sort of manipulation that clearly went on to lead Uldor to murder his father.
Right.
And so
Was
on.
what was happening in
Reminds
Estelad
him
too.
of that kind of thing, manipulating humans to do these sorts of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So that story, he might just be using it as an example of, well, Morgoth does this kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without saying who did it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Galadriel would be the one who would be fixating on, wait, look, there he was again. This is the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she gets this theory, and then she goes back to Melian, and Melian confirms the theory. Yeah. Okay. Now, as far as the rest of the brothers, though, I think that like where the rest of them are is basically like all they have left is the oath. And the only hope they have of getting a Silmaril back is Doriath. And so,
and with the girdle, they don't even really, they have no chance of doing it without Thingol's permission right now.
So their first move is going to be going through channels. Yeah, exactly. But basically, but no matter what, girdle or no girdle, it's going to be easier to get at that one than it's going to be easier to get at the two in Angband. So we're totally starting there. Plus, Curufin and Celegorm are still holding a grudge against Doriath anyway from, their humiliation. So, so they have all the more justification. So they're just focused. But again, big picture, they're just like, we have nothing left but the oath. And so that's all we can do. All right. Well, we should run. It is getting super late. But I think that mostly settles the Fëanorean stuff. I like that Maedhros interaction in particular. Next time, villains. We'll fill in the villain picture more, plus any other loose ends that we think. But I think other than that, we're mostly done with like the big picture plot questions and stuff. I think we've got things mostly sorted out. Are we ready to outline after that? Like
I think so.
Episode outline? Basic
episode outline.
Episode outline? Yeah, okay. So we'll do the villains and then episode outline is what we're looking at. But anyway, next session, April 16th. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the plan. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. This was great fun. Oana and Marie, I appreciate it, as always. And I will say, thanks for listening, and Godspeed.